Live here.
Live!
But we don't have to necessarily know what that means.
What's the someday of black?
I don't
there's
know
a
that we
reason
want to-
this story happens now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the movie writes itself.
Ooh.
Well,
I'm still streaming. How do I stop streaming? No!
yeah. Here we
Having
are.
a little boogie dance.
Thank God it's Friday.
Thank God it's Friday. As much as I love all the creative process, also thank God it's Friday. I'm tired. By the end of Friday, I'm tired.
Yeah, I think I hear you. Me too. I think it's been a long week, a very productive week. It's been
a
good.
very productive week. Well, happy Friday to you, Ben. And I know I saw you earlier. It's like I'm just seeing you now, but for the sake of our viewers, hey Ben, happy Friday.
Yeah, and for those of you who have never joined us before, I'm Ben Lustig.
And I am not. I'm the fairy Jake mother.
And this is the other one. And here we are to write a movie live for you.
We are doing that. We are doing this live over YouTube. If you're watching over YouTube right now, do us a favor. Just hit subscribe, like this video. We're trying to get this video to be seen by as many people who will find it useful as possible. Obviously, YouTube has its algorithms. And the more subscribers you have, the more likes you have, the more likely it is to appear in searches. So please just do us a favor. We'll wait. Great. Okay, thanks for doing it. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. But in all seriousness, that just helps the visibility for our channel, just helps people who would really find this content interesting and useful in their career. Again, as screenwriters, and also I think in any creative writing endeavor.
I think it's great. All right. So Jake is going to give us...
I'll give us a little recap. Okay, so previously on Ben and Jake Write a Movie. I have to do that in like my Optimus Prime voice. We, at the start of this process, came with 0 ideas, and we very quickly arrived at a great idea. Essentially, it's Midnight Run by way of the Terminator with a demon and the Antichrist. What does that mean? Well, keep watching and we'll find out. We've spent the last week and a half, 2 weeks now, really honing that idea down. And we have started to lay out rough structure. And in our last session, we really began to delve into the depths and complexities of our human character, who we are calling Sam. We imagine she'll be played by someone like a Florence Pugh or a Haley Steinfeld. We made some really great discoveries about not only about her as a character, but also about the plot that will arrive out of the questions that we answered during that session. Today, however, we are going to focus on the other main protagonist of our movie, who we imagine being played by someone like Charlize Theron. And in fact, currently we're calling her Charlize, but today, Ben, we're going to give her a name.
A name. Oh, we've got to give her a name. It's a funny thing about names. People get really obsessed over names. And I understand why. I mean, names are a big thing in our culture. And it always is kind of annoying and also amusing to me when people comment on the princess and the fact that we actually chose not to give the princess a name, as if somehow we didn't know enough about her character to give her a name.
Yeah.
Which I just think is preposterous, and clearly anyone who
we got a message. We got some hilarious message on Facebook from a guy who was like, your movie was so bad, the princess didn't even have a name. But I have a script, and if you will collaborate with me on this, then amazing things will happen, because I give my characters names. And it's like,
and I just go like, we had one comment by someone as well. And it was an online comment about how we didn't pass the Bestall test because our character didn't have a name. And I was like, wait a minute. Her name is the princess.
Yes.
For the sake of the Bestall test.
Yes, it wasn't Woman 1.
It is the title of the movie.
I know.
Movie.
Are we saying that right? Bechdel test?
I think. I don't know. If someone knows how to pronounce it better, please tell me. I don't like mispronouncing.
We know nothing.
But
so,
point is, our demon needs a name. And because unlike the princess, she is not a representation of all princesses or women,
Well,
and thus
yes.
she needs to be specific.
So is there a way? Because I know sometimes us figuring out names for characters looks like this.
Yes, it can. It can.
So
For
why
those of
don't
you
we?
listening, Jake was just staring
It's
into
not
space.
going to be interesting
Um,
while we browse Google for like, what would be a good demon name? So look, why don't we each over the weekend come up with a list of 10 names each on Monday, present them live on air, and then we can have and we can then have that conversation
Right.
rather than just kind of go. So maybe
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair and fine. I do think that the important aspect of coming up with her name is valuable in terms of where we are going with her character.
I
So
think so too.
today's episode is clearly going to be all about her and who she is. And sometimes it's a very arbitrary thing, people, but sometimes names just feel
Yes.
like the person.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to describe it other than you just
Well,
hear the name and you go, yeah, that sounds like that person.
What's interesting, it feeds into what we were talking about the other day about Sam. Now, Samantha is obviously a girl's name, but she has chosen to abbreviate it to Sam. She's chosen to present perhaps a harder version of herself to the world. Hence, she goes by Sam. She doesn't want to be thought necessarily as weak and vulnerable. Not that women are weak and vulnerable by any means, but that she wants to present this side of herself to the world.
And this is why I say it's somewhat arbitrary, because I know a Sam who's like the sweetest, nicest, quietest person ever.
Same.
And I'm sure there are Samanthas out there who are fucking hard
ass
and awesome. So it has nothing to do with any sort of reality behind the name, other than as you're imagining the character, you're getting a feeling and you're going, this person is this way. Does this name fit? Like, have you ever met a person and you find out their name and you go, oh, that's weird. Like, you don't seem like that.
You don't seem like a blur. Sure.
You know, I used to have the funniest experience. I used to bartend a lot, and my name is Ben. And in a loud and crowded bar, people would ask me my name, and I go, my name is Ben. And they'd go, nice to meet you, Matt. And the funny thing is, it wasn't just one person.
It was a lot of people.
I mean, for years, for whatever reason, people would think my name was Matt. I have no idea why. Ben and Matt do not share one letter.
And soon it became like that episode of Friends where Chandler doesn't let his boss know. His boss keeps getting his name wrong and he doesn't correct him. It's like after the second time, it would just have been weird.
Yeah. Well, I would try and correct people, and like, I swear to God, I go, no, Ben, and they go, Matt. I'm like, what am I? Am I not enunciating enough? Like, anyway.
Anyway, there you go. The point being, names are important. But Monday we will come. Hey, anyone got any interesting ideas for a name of a demon that could start evil but turn nice?
No, don't give us any of those ideas.
Okay, fine.
We'll come up with our own creative ideas.
Fine. All right.
But you can give us ideas if you think we're being idiots.
Why are you not calling her Azarath? The name Jake came up in the first episode is perfect.
Perfect. No, not anymore. And that changes too. In fact, we've changed names. You know, it's also an interesting idea, point about names. Names get changed from the draft that we will write to production. Totally. There are characters, one character in particular that I'll reference in The Princess, the character of Lynn. In our script, her name was Saya.
Yes.
Why did she end up being called Lynn? Well, I believe, from my understanding, when they cast Veronica, who is Asian, they wanted a more Asian-sounding name.
Totally. And when we wrote her, we didn't write her specifically as Asian. We wrote her as ethnically ambiguous.
We did not call out her ethnicity at all. Right, we did actually.
Yeah.
So
we wanted to
we always did, interestingly, imagine her as a person of color.
Absolutely right. And there was even dialogue in certain drafts, early drafts, where she referenced a sultan in her land. And so we were trying to infuse something
she was
in that.
definitely
And
from
again,
a faraway place. Even
totally.
even in the draft that we sold, she was
Absolutely
from like
right.
a
Yes,
place that
from
was
somewhere else. Sire was a name that you wouldn't read it and go, "Oh, that's a
automatically white.
a white European woman." You would
Right.
immediately
Right.
bring that with anyway. So yes.
So,
it is
anyway, our demon.
our demon. Let's call her Charlize for today, just for the purpose of ease.
Sure thing. We'll continue to call her Charlize. And that's fine. What are the main things that we want to kind of boil down in terms of who she is? And I think one of the interesting things we've been talking about is that it's not as much about what she is as much as it is about who she is. And that is actually her own journey that she is going to be realizing even that.
Well, yeah. I guess I want to start by asking the questions, of she's a demon. What does that mean?
Good question.
What does that mean?
Let's get into the lore.
Let's get into it. And this may express rules as well. But
world building. Now, this is another hysterical and yet totally part of our process, which is we start with the intention of talking about one thing and we will ultimately tangent because it's important into something that we realize we haven't cracked yet.
Yes.
And who knows if we'll even get back to her. But let's go into the lore of demon
lore
for this particular movie.
Absolutely. So in some versions, I feel of demon lore, demons are fallen angels. They were the angels cast out by God after fully 1/3 of the angelic host.
Are they all? One version. Is that I don't know that version as far as all of the demons being that. I know Lucifer being and Lucifer's like main guys were like fallen angels, but I don't think of Lucifer as a demon either. Interesting.
Yeah, think of him as a fallen angel.
He's a fallen angel. So I feel like there are fallen angels in hell. Perhaps.
Right.
And that is, of course, if we're going with the legitimate,
totally. If we're going with all that, and again, that's not necessarily biblical. It's more, Milton and Paradise Lost and things like that. So
it's kind of this like amalgamation. We all, there's Hades and this, the underworld, right? So, the underworld.
So I don't think, so there's again, we could play with that idea or not. It's not what she is when I think about her, though. I think of her as being some kind of minion for the forces of darkness who, if they are allowed to interfere in mankind, because that's for whatever reason they're allowed to, she was one of the people, one of the beings who does this. And therefore, we talked about this before in the past, has she been alive for a very long time? Has she witnessed eons of mankind pass before her eyes? Is she like a Highlander in that sense that's experienced X amount, hundreds or even thousands of years of human history? I'm not sure. Discuss.
Okay. I think for me that while I do think she's probably 1,000 years old or more, I don't think she's been on our plane of existence that whole time. I don't see her as an immortal living among us for that entire time. Now, I know we've talked about her having left the underworld and kind of hidden in like the Colorado mountains. And I think that that's cool. Like she's been among us for a century and hasn't aged. And I go, okay, fine. I do think that demons do, as we kind of understand in popular culture, come and interfere and do evil things and raise darkness amidst humanity. But I don't think it's about permission. I actually think that it's like that's what they do. There's no permission needed for the underworld. The angels need God's permission. The demons, they don't need anybody's permission.
Great. I think that's great. Yeah, totally.
That's what they do. That's who they are.
And why do they do it?
Well, so it's an interesting question. And there's also a very kind of simple answer, which is because that's what demons do. Um, it's one of those things where when you're talking about kind of villains, I remember we were just having a conversation recently, and we were talking about money and the desire for money. And when it's a protagonist and their desire is money, you always want to know, like, well, what is the money for, and why do they want it? What's the emotional underpinning behind the money? When it's a bad guy and they want money, you go, because they want to be rich.
Totally. Yeah.
Like,
You're
like
allowed to
that's
have.
it.
You're
Right?
allowed to. I think with your villains, you're allowed to have those base animal instincts. You know,
So like,
why are you doing it? I just like to watch things suffer.
right. So
I
if
get off on it.
demons as
It's
a
just
whole
yeah.
don't like humans and like to
Mhm.
fuck with them,
Well, it's interesting, isn't it?
you
Because
know,
you go, what was the original idea? Kind of going back to this concept again, Milton, Paradise Lost. Like Lucifer wanted to fuck with mankind because mankind was God's favorite thing, and it was
right.
I want to make them suffer because I want to make
Yeah.
him suffer. You know,
Right.
something like that along those lines. And so these creatures, these beings are just infused with that intention. Just going to make them suffer because I just like, because that's what the other beings that come, that
Sure.
where I come from, that's what they want. That's what he wants.
I
You know?
do think, though, that for our mythology, we need a little bit more specificity in terms of what Charlize, pre-leaving the underworld,
Mhm.
what was her normal existence? Was she
Mhm.
part of a, demon SEAL Team 6 that came up to Earth and started, doing like big, horrible, evil
Demon,
jobs?
Demon,
Was
Demon Team 6 is the
Demon
prequel.
Team 6? Like, was she the kind of demon who possessed people, like in The Exorcist? But then, like, that seems pretty sadistic. Was she the kind of person who, the kind of demon who went on very specific missions for a boss down in the underworld who said,
Mhm.
I need this person killed or this person, for some other grander
Mhm.
plan?
Mhm.
Um, because I do think, and what we're creating in this particular mythology is the real myth of the bringer of darkness, the
Right.
antichrist,
Right.
whatever these other cultures may refer to them as, the demons, as well as the celestials, they all believe this is real. So
Yeah.
there is a goal for the demons to want that person
Mm.
to become the bringer of darkness, right?
Right.
What
Right.
does that mean to them? Was Charlize a part of that plan? Was
Mhm.
what is their expectations of coming
Yeah.
through, when that happens, when the apocalypse come, does Lucifer rise and the demons take over Earth? Is it just about, more demons down in hell? So we can get to
Mhm.
like populate ourselves? Like,
That's
is there,
interesting. Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
are we destroying more souls? And also, what is the purpose for demons fucking with people at all? Other than if it's just to fuck with them, well, doesn't that like also just get boring after a while? I mean,
Mm.
like, unless we're coming up with new and inventive ways, but what's
Well,
like the
it's
end
kind of
goal?
like saying, like, to an uber rich person, like, why do you need more money? And it's like, I like money.
Well,
You know, I don't
that
think it
is
has to
true.
be. I don't think
That
it
is
has to be. Well,
true.
placing our judgment on that. I think that there is this aspect of like, are you still really doing that? Yeah, it's what I do. I really enjoy doing. I really enjoy making people
Right.
suffer. But again,
Right.
I do also hear what you're saying about kind of going for what purpose? It's
Even
why I asked
in
the question
the
earlier.
selfish, superficial nature of I want to be rich, I, Ben, understand what that means. I
Yes.
know what being rich is, and I know that what that means is things. It means vacations. It means jets. It means private
Sure.
islands. It means escaping in certain people's situations from the law. It means
Sure.
it has. Now, it may not have that emotional thing of I need this money to pay for my mom's cancer treatment. But if a bad guy wants to be rich, they want it for the sake of being rich. It's not
Hmm.
just to have money in their bank account, it's
Hmm.
to use the money. right?
Sure.
So even if we say, okay, well, the demons, they've been fucking with humanity for the last, 2 millennia
Mhm.
because they're evil and that's what demons do.
Mm.
Well, I don't actually, as a viewer, as an audience member, I don't know exactly what that means in terms
Mm.
of like end result of what you get from it. Even if it's superficial and not emotional,
Mm.
what do I get from that other than just pleasure? And if I only get pleasure, what is that because my existence in the underworld is so miserable that I need to come up here to get
I mean, it's a good. It's interesting.
uh,
I just watched the trailer for the new Hellraiser, and
hmm,
it's so creepy. Obviously, the Cenobites in that are the real villainous, demonic
hmm,
bad guys who live forever in this
right.
hellish existence whereby they no longer differentiate pleasure from pain, and anyone they bring down there, they submit to the same torture that they kind of enjoy getting off on. And that's what they do. But they are humongously villainous characters.
Yeah.
You're not going, you know what? I hope I go on Pinhead's redemption arc in this one. I
Well,
hope
and we're
by the
not.
end.
I mean,
What?
let's be clear. We're not going to worry about our bad demons and
No,
their like arc
no,
of their characters.
of
The
course not.
only reason that we're looking for something deeper is because
Well,
Charlize is also a demon.
but here's the thing. Charlize has rejected that life.
But what was it prior?
Totally.
Is
But
what I'm,
again,
what is she rejecting? I guess is
sure.
just
I mean,
like,
maybe it
was
is.
she just fucking with people?
Perhaps, and maybe it is the as you ask the question, like, is that enough for demons? Well, for most demons, yeah, it was.
Right.
They get a kick out of it. They've been doing it for
Mhm.
millennia. And for Charlize, she was like, there's got to be more to the afterlife than this. There's got to be more to existence
Mhm.
than this. Pinhead one day woke up and went, you know what? I just want to be on a farm somewhere.
Right.
What is, because she is rejecting that life. There is, which of course is going to make us
Yeah.
like her,
And I like that, but I will ask the question of this movie gives the demons a new desire line. And so I think there's a little bit of a conflict between, Charlize obviously was part of the demons pre the understanding that the Antichrist has finally
Yes,
been born.
yes.
Now, in present day, in our movie, the bringer of doom is among us.
Yeah.
What do the demons hope to gain?
Mm-hmm.
Did Charlize know what that meant to demon kind, or is this
Mm-hmm.
new?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a big bad boss demon that we're going to want to get to know that is like our, you know, bad guy,
Personification of, yes.
personification, or
Yeah.
Sauron, or who, like, is
Yeah.
there a,
Our main
you
demon
know,
dude
a main demon
who
dude?
has a history with Charlize.
Correct.
They know each other. They were part of Demon Team 6 together.
And well, and that's the thing. Is like, well, okay, so they know each other. So what? They just like went off and got stoned and possessed people's bodies together, or
Mm-hmm.
was there some kind of a grander plan? It's something
Was
that
there,
actually,
is there,
you
is
know,
there, we were talking about a ghost for Sam, and ultimately we just kind of went her past as her ghost. But is there something, which I think is fine, is there something specific with this character for Charlize? And it's like, you're the one
what put
who,
her over the edge, right?
totally.
What made her go? The last 1,200 years was nice, but I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what? And why did she all of a sudden develop a conscience? If it has to do,
And is
and a
there
desire to
something
be
in
human.
this movie that she can do that atones, not necessarily atones for, but you go, oh, years and years and years ago, 600 years ago, or whenever it was, Belial, my demon friend, we were going to go and do this thing, and I knew it was wrong,
Mm,
and I didn't stop them. I walked away.
right. right?
I didn't stop them. I walked away.
But how?
And
What's wrong? I guess, and this is where I think we got to really dig deep. Because what is wrong for a demon? And why would she all of a sudden have this thing happen whereby her idea of right, like, when did she develop a moral compass? Like, do all demons have a moral compass but just choose to ignore good? Or did something happen to her whereby whatever we want to believe in God is, like, was there something that we learned that actually she was part of the plan? Or
yeah,
is there an event that is so intense that only this could have taken a demon and given them morality? Because I guess what I'm trying to kind of grasp is she's really complex. So
yeah, she
how
is.
does a really complex character come from a society that we're painting with such a broad, uncomplex brush?
Mm,
And maybe part of that is that we don't. Maybe we're shooting ourselves in the foot by going, "Ah, demons are just there's just lots of them, and they come around and they go
uh-huh.
and raise hell." Because maybe what that does is make them so uh, shallow and simple that then we go, well, why is Charlize different? Like,
Mm,
what makes her different than that? If
mm,
there has there ever been another person like her?
mm,
Has
mm.
there ever been like I start
Is
to kind of
there,
ask all
okay,
these
all right, okay.
questions, you know?
Is there a way, I'm going to pace, is there a way for the broad pitch is have they for millennia trying to conspire in the same way as the Bene Gesserit witches in Dune are trying to make the Kwisatz Haderach? Have the demons in some way been conspiring to get all the appropriate bloodlines and make essentially the Antichrist happen? But again, it's not just about bloodlines, it must be through about suffering. You
Mhm.
know, I need X person to be with X person. That person needs to be an abusive husband. So how do I make that happen? Well, I'm going to go and visit them when they were young, and I'm going to conspire so that this person meets this person out this age.
Mhm.
That person's going to be a bad person, and that ultimately I'm kind of trying to condense a bloodline of kind of basically evil, essentially. Now,
Yeah,
but what's interesting is that,
maybe.
you know, with something like Dune and the Bene Gesserit witches, they know exactly who everyone is.
Yeah.
When Lady Jessica in Dune does not go with who she's meant to be with, which, spoiler alert, I think is Fade Routher. It's supposed to be Jessica and Fade Routher are supposed to get together and produce the Kwisatz Haderach. But that's not what she does. And it's like, shit, and it all goes wrong because now the bloodlines are all fucked. So I just kind of go, how did they lose track of it? Or is it just not that specific? I don't know. But anyway, that was my thing. And so then when Sam turns up on the scene and she is who she is, it's like, holy shit, you're who? I'm partly responsible for your even existence. Because 2 centuries ago, I made this person really nasty by fucking with their life. And then I don't know, I'm just kind of playing around with that idea. Maybe it doesn't work, and that's fine.
Um, I don't think it's all bad. No, I think there's something to this kind of grander plan.
Yeah.
Um, I wonder though if, like, rather than like a bloodline kind of a thing, is there some sort of, we've talked about from the Celestials that there's some kind of potential prophecy or some reason that they know that now Sam is here,
Yes.
something
Yes.
like that, right?
Yeah.
Has there been this prophecy that is the same on both sides? And that the way that the demons have been trying to make the prophecy come true is by creating pain and suffering in the world. Because by creating pain and suffering, you will ultimately create an evil human that will then embody what they're looking for. Now, they're
Yeah.
not they Sam clearly comes from a childhood of pain and suffering. She comes from
Yes.
a dead mother and an
Yep.
alcoholic father who made her feel like she's nothing and worthless. But what there could be a misinterpretation potentially of the prophecy if we decided to go there, or there could be this kind of thing whereby um, throughout the last 2,000 years, the more pain and suffering that they could cause, eventually
Mhm.
they will weed out, they will bring forth through pain and suffering
Right.
the ultimate evil human, which is what the Antichrist ultimately is, and
Mm.
that evil human would then be the way to, bring Lucifer to Earth in a
Totally. It
physical,
was one of the things we talked about the
you
other day, wasn't
know,
it? Is she going to become a human vessel for?
something like that.
Yeah.
Or, but is there some kind of but you need to be truly evil in order to do this. So we would need to have pushed various parts of humanity so far
Yeah.
that eventually that spirit or that vessel is there, and then with an act of pure evil is the thing that ultimately solidifies the
Yeah.
in fact, this could be really cool. Like, is there some way in which the demons start tempting Sam, and that there is kind
Yeah.
of this moment where she could, in theory, take out, uh, murder someone in cold blood or kill
Right.
someone in cold blood, and that act of pure evil could be the thing that causes her to do it, but she
Mm.
makes the choice
Mhm.
to not do it.
Yep, that's interesting. That's
I mean, I'm like
interesting.
kind of like going down a whole other path here, but I'm just trying to think of like if part of the mission of the demons for 2000 plus years has been to make make the kind of environment ready for the antichrist to come to earth,
Yep.
similarly to like, some, religious cultures believe that the messiah hasn't come yet, and how do we, create an earth that would be worthy of the messiah,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
How do they create a human race that is so inflicted with pain and suffering and darkness that it is
Yeah.
worthy for the antichrist to be born,
Totally.
you
Totally,
know
totally.
and has
Yeah.
that been this like continuing mission? And they constantly are coming up. I mean, and here's where I kind of go, there's some fun to be had in the complexities of it, is like it shouldn't always just be the same thing.
Yeah.
Like for millennia, like they've been coming up with new and interesting and
Totally. And
different
again,
ways
it's
to,
not
you
big like,
know
oh, I'm gonna create a war. It's like, what can I do to fuck
yeah,
up this person's life? And
totally.
make them go down a dark path.
But they also could have created a
They
war.
also could have created a war as one big enormous
Yeah,
thing. And when that's not happening, you're moving the chess
right.
pieces around and just trying to make this environment of darkness.
So, I mean, what's also kind of interesting is that from a thematic point of view, like there might even be a way to create some relevance to this idea based on how divided humanity is right now, based on kind of the level of darkness and evil that is kind of coming to the
Yeah,
surface even today. And since this
sure.
movie is present day,
Yeah.
it almost like there is some commentary that is naturally being had, saying, oh, well, now is the perfect time for the Antichrist to be born
Totally.
because
Absolutely.
humanity is ready to be taken down that path.
Completely.
Um,
I think we should just pause for a second because we are approaching the half an hour mark. We are going to split
oh,
these up into half an hour segments after the live stream is done. So we'll pause episode 10